or Asif. Is Asif here or? Oh, great. Oh, okay. And our other speakers, I'm missing. Oh, okay. She's not seating up here, but Sala.
Yes.
Sala is. So if you see. Oh, good. Okay. Okay. Great. Yes. Kim is. Yes. Sure. Yes. Okay.
Good evening. I am Matthew Hennessian, and I am the rector or the senior priest here at Christ Church. And on behalf of the entire Christ Church community, it is my joy and my privilege and pleasure to welcome you to Christ Church this evening as we share this wonderful service of gratitude. You'll see in your service bulletins that the congregational responses, the words that we'll pray together, and indeed the two congregational hymns that we'll sing together are all in your bulletin. And the words are in bold, and when it comes time for us to sing the congregational hymns, we ask as we're able to stand and sing those together joyfully tonight. Finally, following our service, all are invited to come through the two doors here, down the hallway and up a flight of stairs, or take the elevator, and follow the sound of happy voices and the smell of good food to have a simple service for some light refreshment, some time for conversation, and some continuing conversation together this evening following our worship. And I turn it over to Reverend Cynthia.
All right, and that's me, Reverend Cynthia. And I echo what Reverend Matthew said. We are so happy to have you all here, so pleased to have you here. We hope that you can settle in and open your heart, and this sacred space is for all of us, and we welcome you here. We have some thanks, and that's what I'm here for, is the gratitude part of this. There are a lot of folks who made this evening happen, and big thanks to our NTMA Gratitude Service Committee, who got together a bunch to make this happen, especially Valdek. Where's Valdek from Winnetka Congregational? Can you just wave? There he is. He's humbly back there. Ah, thank you, Valdek. Valdek took the time and went through this whole church to find the beautiful images you have on your program booklet. And that's from our stained glass windows, and it just came out beautiful. Also, Thomas Murphy is here this evening. I'll introduce him in a little bit. He's waving, and he spent countless hours on this evening. He's from the Baha'i faith, and he just did so much behind-the-scenes work. So thank you so much, especially to you, too. There's also, though, so many volunteers, from candlelight to flowers to dishes to share. As Reverend Matthew said, please join us for the reception. So much went into this, and we're so lucky, especially our music and choir. This choir is from all the different faiths around New Trier. Huzzah! Yay!
You guys haven't sung anything yet, but yes.
We're so thrilled to have you all. Thank you so much. And especially our music and choir director, Richard Clement. Is he, where did I see? There's Richard. And also our organist, our guest organist, Mr. Noah Wynn Morton. Thank you. So finally, last but not least, in the spirit of gratitude and giving, we have a free will offering that we invite you to. Money, check, or non-perishable food items. All of it will be going to the New Trier Food Pantry. So there are baskets in the back and over in the cloister and in the reception, and we invite you to be a part of that. So let's settle in, take a deep breath, enjoy, and I'm here to welcome you to Mr. Thomas Murphy, who's our Vice Chair of the Executive Committee of the New Trier Multi-Faith Alliance. Thank you, Thomas.
So I'll try this once more because I am soft-spoken, so they tell me. Am I okay? Yeah? Good. All right. So nice to see your faces, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's wonderful to be with you on this special occasion each year when we take time to express gratitude to the Creator for the gift of life and for our many blessings. My name is Thomas Murphy, of course, and I'm here tonight to represent the New Trier Multi-Faith Alliance, or for short, NTMA, the organization that sponsors these annual occasions and has for going on 60 years. On behalf of the 13 diverse communities that comprise our alliance, I'm pleased to welcome you. If you're not familiar with NTMA, it was founded some 60 years ago as the Winnetka Interfaith Council. In recent years, it has been renamed to reflect the ever-widening embrace of faith communities that we aim for, and to better communicate our aims and purposes. The mission of NTMA is to foster friendship among communities of faith on Chicago's North Shore, and to increase knowledge and understanding of their varied histories and teachings. The programs we sponsor are designed to stimulate meaningful dialogue and practical action. Working together on them, we get to know each other better and to honor our individual faith traditions. Different, yet with many commonalities. We take special delight tonight in welcoming for the first time the participation of Chicago's Native American community, represented by Ms. Kim Bijou, Executive Director of Evanston's Mitchell Museum of the American Indian. We're so pleased to have you here, Kim. Gratitude is tonight's focus, of course, and on behalf of the Alliance, I'd like to first offer thanks to everyone at Christ Church for hosting this year's service and for their many contributions to its organization. There are many other NTMA members who helped in this endeavor, and I'd like to refer you to the last page of the program booklet that I hope you have, where we acknowledge each of these wonderful colleagues. You'll find there a link to our website and to the program booklet in electronic form. Friends, on Thursday, many of us will join family and friends in enjoying the comforts and pleasures of this traditional holiday. Yet, as we do, across the world in a number of locations, large numbers of our fellow humans will continue to experience the effects of deprivation, of unimaginable loss, and horrific violence. We cannot forget them. For as the great Jewish author, Holocaust survivor, and Nobel Prize winner, Elie Wiesel, said, "Human suffering anywhere concerns men and women everywhere." We join peace-loving people everywhere in ardent prayers for a swift end to the turmoil, violence, and loss of life plaguing the world, and a renewal of efforts to find a mutually agreeable resolution to the grievances of all parties. It is our fervent hope that they, together with all members of the international community, will resolve to establish lasting peace and justice for all. We'll now proceed with our program, with hopes that you'll find it every bit as rich and moving as we have intended it to be. But one word about the program. Despite our best efforts to perfect it, we discovered late last night, alas, too late to correct it, that the program contained a serious error. If you turn the pages to the place where our readers from the Morton Grove Muslim Community Center are mentioned, we unintentionally misidentified the young woman who will recite for us, both in Arabic and English, several verses from the glorious Quran. Her name, which I'm pleased to mention with our warmest appreciation, and with my personal apologies for the error, is Sana Akhter, and we are much grateful for her participation. Once again, thank you, friends, for joining us tonight. May your holiday be meaningful and pleasurable, and may you experience continued blessings in the coming year. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kim Viju. I'm the Executive Director of the former Mitchell Museum at the American Indian in Evanston. We're very excited this week, renamed the museum to an indigenous name, a Ojibwe name, which is the Gitchigaming Indigenous Nations Museum. So very excited about that. A little bit about me. I am a citizen of the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin and a descendant of the Menominee Nation in Wisconsin, and I live here nearby in Glencoe. So I'm going to share a little bit with everyone tonight about my Haudenosaunee, Oneida, Iroquois culture. And I'll be reciting the Thanksgiving address. This is not in reference to the holiday. This is an address or a prayer that we recite at the beginning of any community event, school events, government meetings, and so it's the opening and closing of every gathering that we have. And you start out learning it as a young kid. You recite it in English and in Oneida, or one of the Six Nation languages. But I'm only going to read it in English tonight because we'd be here forever if I did both. And what I really like about this address is that it has like a call and response, so it's a participatory address. So if you see in the book, there's a section that's bolded where it says, "Now our minds are one." That is for everyone to recite along with me. So thank you for having me. So I will get started. The people. Today we have gathered and we see that the cycles of life continue. We have been given this duty to live in balance and harmony with each other and all living things. So now we bring our minds together as one and we give greetings and thanks to each other as people. Now our minds are one. To Earth Mother, we are all thankful for our mother, the earth, for she gives us all that we need for life. She supports our feet as we walk upon her. It gives us joy that she continues to care for us as she has from the beginning of time. To our mother, we send greeting and thanks.
Now our minds are one.
The waters. We give thanks to all the waters of the world, quenching our thirst and providing us with strength. Water is life. We know its power in many forms: waterfalls, rain, mists and streams, and rivers and oceans. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the Spirit of water. The fish. We turn our minds to all of the fish that live in the water. They were instructed to cleanse and purify the water. They also give themselves to us as food. We are grateful that we can still find pure water. So now we turn to the fish and we send our greetings and thanks.
Now our minds are one.
The plants. Now we turn to the vast field of plant life. As far as the eye can see, the plants grow, working many wonders. They sustain life in many forms. With our minds gathered together, we give thanks and looking forward to seeing plant life for many generations to come.
Now our minds are one.
The food plants. With one mind, we turn to honor and thank all the food plants we harvest from the garden. Since the beginning of time, these grains, vegetables, beans, and berries have helped the people survive. Many living things draw strength from them too. We gather all of the food plants together as one, and we send them a greeting of thanks.
Now our minds are one.
The medicine herbs. Now we all turn to the medicine herbs of the world. From the beginning, they were instructed to take away sickness. They are always waiting and ready to heal us. We are happy we are still among those special few who remember how to use these plants for healing. With one mind, we send greetings and thanks to the medicines and the keepers of the medicines.
Now our minds are one.
The animals. We gather our minds together to send greetings and thanks to all animal life in the world. They have many things to teach us as people. We are honored by them when they give up their lives so that we can use their bodies as food for our people. We see them near our homes and in the deep forest. We are glad they are still here, and we hope they will always be here so. The trees. Now we turn our thoughts to the trees. The earth has many families of trees who have their own instructions and uses. Some provide us with shelter and shade, others with fruit and beauty and other useful things. Many people of the world use a tree as a symbol of peace and strength. With one mind, we greet and thank the tree of life.
Now our minds are one.
The birds. We put our minds together as one and thank all the birds who move and fly above our heads. The Creator gave them beautiful songs. Each day they remind us to enjoy and appreciate life. The eagle was chosen to be their leader. To all the birds, from the smallest to the largest, we send our joyful greeting and thanks.
Now our minds are one.
The four winds. We are all thankful to the powers we know as the four winds. We hear their voice in the moving air as they refresh us and purify the air that we breathe. They help us bring a change of seasons. From the four directions they come, bringing us messages and giving us strength. With one mind, we send our greetings and thanks to the four winds.
Now our minds are one.
In closing words, we have now arrived at a place where we end our words. Of all things we have named, it is not our intention to leave anything out. If something was forgotten, we leave it to each individual to send such greetings and thanks in their own way.
Now our minds are one.
Shalom. I'm Cantor Pavel Reitman of Beth Hillel Congregation B'nai Emunah. I'm honored to be here today to celebrate Thanksgiving and to be united in faith. The chant and the words of this prayer are more than 1,000 years old. Modi anachnu lach Shetach Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avoteinu Leolam Va'ed Tzur Chayenu Magen Ishenu Atachu Ledor Vador Nodeh Leka Unesaper Degilatecha Al Chayenu Hamsurim Beyadecha V'al Nishmoteinu Hapkudot Lach V'al Nisecha Shebechol Yom Imanu V'al Niflotecha V'tovatecha Shebechol Beit Erev Avoker V'tzokorai Hatov Kiluchal Urachamecha Ve'amrachem Kilutamu Chasadecha Me'olam Kivinu Lach. Please join me in English. We give thanks to you that you are the Lord of our God and God of our ancestors forever and ever. Rock of our lives and shield of our salvation from generation to generation. We give thanks to you and recount your praises for our lives that are entrusted in your hand, and for our souls that are in your safekeeping, and for your miracles that are with us every day, and for your wondrous and good deeds that are with us at all times, evening, morning, and midday. Good one, your mercies never fail us. Compassionate one, your loving kindness never ceases. We always hope in you. Thank you.
Friends, we did have scheduled a recitation of a poem by a member of the Buddhist Council of Metropolitan Chicago, and alas, she is not with us and we haven't heard from her, so we regret that she hasn't appeared yet. Perhaps she will in the course of the service, but we'll move on with our program. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace upon all of you. My name is Sana, and I'll be reciting a few verses from the Holy Quran. You can follow along. I will be doing the translation where it says recitation from Islamic scripture. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا كونوا قوامين بالقسط شهداء لله ولو على أنفسكم أو الوالدين والأقربين. إن يكن غنيا أو فقيرا فالله أولى بهما فلا تتبعوا الهوى أن تعدلوا وإن تلووا أو تعرضوا فإن الله كان بما تعملون خبيرا. This is from Surah 4, An-Nisa, the women, verse 135. O you who have believed, be persistently standing firm in justice, witnesses for Allah, even if it be against yourselves or parents and relatives. Whether one is rich or poor, Allah is more worthy of both. So follow not personal inclination, lest you not be just. And if you distort your testimony or refuse to give it, then indeed Allah is ever of what you do aware.
So for those that know how long he's got, you might want to.
Yeah, thank you, Asif. Yeah, for those who might not know, Allah is the Arabic for God. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Surah 2, Al-Baqarah, the cow, verses 154 to 156. And do not say about those who are killed in the way of Allah, they are dead. Rather, they are alive, but you perceive it not. And we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits. But give glad tidings to the patient who, when disaster strikes them, say, indeed we belong to Allah, and indeed to Him we will return. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. ولا تهنوا ولا تحزنوا وأنتم الأعلون إن كنتم مؤمنين. Surah 3, Al-Imran, the family of Imran, verse 139. So do not weaken and do not grieve, and you will be superior if you are believers. Thank you all so much.
I don't know if it was said earlier, but I missed it. Are we not applauding? So I don't know. Give it up for Sana. Like, it's such a beautiful representation. So I greet you with the time-honored greeting of the Muslims. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. I am Asif Masood, representing the Muslim Community Center of Morton Grove in today's program. I'm here to say a few words about gratitude, especially gratitude in times of struggle, when things aren't necessarily going your way. We are sitting here in the Midwest, on the ancestral homelands of the Kickapoo, Peoria, Potawatomi, Miami, among many others. We sit on the traditional homelands of the people of the Council of Three Fires, the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Odawa, as well as Miomani, Miami, and Ho-Chunk nations. This was also a site of trade, travel, gathering, and healing for more than a dozen other native tribes, and is still home to over 100,000 tribal members in the state of Illinois. This is a practice of showing acknowledgement and taking responsibility for the history of violence that has impacted indigenous and native communities for centuries. You might ask, why does this matter to a Muslim? In our faith, it is stated in the Quran, chapter 5, verse 32, that whoever kills an innocent soul, it is as if he had slain mankind entirely. This is especially relevant given the occupied territories of Palestine. While that isn't the only struggle going on in the world today, it is one that is at the top of our hearts and minds. I've lived with fear most of my life, and even though I was born and raised in Chicago, I was brought up by immigrant parents. For them, survival was the name of the game. Do enough to get by, but not too much where you got noticed. Being a religious minority in India could be deadly. My grandparents and my dad lived through the partition where 20 million folks died. They experienced not only British colonial rule, but also the start of Hindu extremism and rule. As a kid, I would wonder, was their leaving India the right move, especially given how resistant they were to Western culture? With the extremist BJP coming into power, I felt gratitude that 50 years later, their decision seems to be vindicated. Growing up in the 70s and 80s, we faced a lot of racism and Islamophobia. Although the cause might be different or the reason why it came to the surface might be different, but it still lingered and was brought up to the surface when something happened around the world that impacted America, such as the Iranian Revolution of 1979. Post 9/11, people that looked like me, had the same belief as me, attacked my country. This was another changing of the dynamics and a new struggle Muslims faced in America, the West, and then eventually places like Iraq and Afghanistan, where 2 million plus innocent civilians were killed. Personally, what I was grateful for on the day that happened, people of diverse faiths that stood around the mosque in Bridgeview when mobs came down to attack that mosque. We lived like that more or less until Trump was elected. That fear of what he would do to this country brought like-minded people together. We organized, we fought, and it was a unified struggle, whether you had strong faith or not. I would attest what we accomplished in those 4 years would not have been able to do had Clinton been elected. When the murder of George Floyd happened, it actually became okay to talk about these kinds of things at the workplace, and DEI was at its highest point. Small steps forward happened, but it seemed like we have been stepping a million steps backward since October 8th of last year. Now we are struggling. The people of the Holy Land are struggling. The world is struggling. And although some of those folks that we built strong relationships with in the past few years stand with us, some do not. For instance, I'm grateful for being at a B'nai Mitzvah this past Saturday, and the rabbi there used Gaza in the same breath as Israel. Many of my friends ask, why do you care so much about what is happening around the world? Or why does foreign policy impact who you voted for in the last election? It's hard to put into words why I care, but one saying of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, that I recall is that Muslims are like one body. When one limb suffers, the whole body responds to it. The concept of unity in Islam is of one rooted in faith, regardless of culture, race, nationality, or other interests. Islam itself means peace, but there can be no peace without justice. In the verses that Sana beautifully recited, it is stated that you will be tested, and that these tests are all a path to God, and that it is our job to work through the pain and not lose hope and actually be grateful for the tests themselves because they are a path to God. I started my personal growth journey about 10 years ago now, and as I worked through my own pain, a realization occurred to me that God has a plan. This was not something new that I had heard of or been told, but in working through my pain, I was open to accepting that. Something I heard a few weeks ago from another friend was that don't let someone else's test cause you to fail your own test. We may not be facing the same test as the Palestinians, but their faith should be an example to us. Not only does God have a plan, but we as humans have influence. Our test is to do what we can, bear witness, speak out, protest, vote, etc. And in that, we keep doing that, knowing that God is the ultimate judge and that he has a plan. In that, we find hope and gratitude in tough times, not just when things are good. Thank you.
I'll be reading from the Baha'i Scripture, a passage written by Baha'u'llah, the prophet and founder of the Baha'i Faith. The purpose of the one true God, exalted be his glory, in revealing himself unto men is to lay bare those gems that lie hidden within the mind of their true and inmost selves, that the diverse communions of the earth and the manifold systems of religious belief should never be allowed to foster the feelings of animosity among men is in this day of the essence of the faith of God and his religion. These principles and laws, these firmly established and mighty systems, have proceeded from one source and are the rays of one light. That they differ one from another is to be attributed to the varying requirements of the ages in which they were promulgated. The utterance of God is a lamp, whose words are these: Ye are the fruits of one tree, and the leaves of one branch. Deal ye one with another with the utmost love and harmony, with friendliness and fellowship. He who is the day star of truth beareth me witness. So powerful is the light of unity that it can illuminate the whole earth.
have a chance to speak to you again, everyone. Thank you, and it's my pleasure this evening to introduce briefly our keynote speaker, Mr. Steve Sorowitz. Steve is a highly successful entrepreneur and the founder and chairman of Paylocity, a popular digital application for payroll and other human resource administrative functions. He is also a humanitarian. With his wife, Jessica, established the Julian Grace Foundation, a philanthropic organization dedicated to community building on a global scale through a host of programs that aim to increase socioeconomic mobility and enable lasting social reform. In addition, he is a filmmaker and is the co-founder with actor Justin Baldoni of Wayfarer Studios, a creative enterprise engaged in the development and production of films designed to inform, uplift the spirit, and serve as an impetus to social change. Among cinematic projects he has brought to the screen is the Peabody Award-winning And Still I Rise, a documentary on the life and work of the celebrated poet, novelist, and human rights activist, Maya Angelou. A graduate of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, where he received a bachelor's degree in economics, Steve was raised in the Jewish tradition. Introduced to the Baha'i faith while a college student, rekindled interest in the faith in midlife led him to embrace it fully. In addition to his energetic and multifaceted advocacy of the Baha'i faith, Steve is active in interfaith work and served as one of the plenary speakers at the most recent Parliament of the World's Religions, which was held in August 2023 at McCormick Place in Chicago. Together with their two children, Steve and Jessica currently make their home in Highland Park. Steve, we're so pleased to welcome you this evening.
Thank you for having me here tonight. This is such a beautiful place. I want to thank both Cynthia and Matthew for opening up their beautiful church, and the choir and all the speakers for their wonderful contributions. We are here tonight as people of many faiths, but we are here following a single God, whether that God be called Allah, Jehovah, the Great Spirit, Brahman, or many other things. And that God has sent messengers in every age, that same God. For there is no God of the Jews or the Muslims or the Christians or the Baha'is. There's just a single God who through every prophet in every age has told us to love each other without exception, to love God and love thy neighbor, the center of every religion. And so I'm thankful for that God, and I'm hopeful that the world we live in can eventually acknowledge the oneness of God and the oneness of humanity. That all of us, regardless of the religion we were raised in, the country we were born in, the color of our skin, our gender, or any other thing, political, for example, that we think separates us, we will acknowledge our common humanity. And when we do that, we will have a peace like the world has ever known, has never known. Looking at the audience here, I see Jews, I see Christians, Muslims, and Baha'is, and perhaps a Buddhist or two. And why do we identify that way? Well, of course, I'll start with the Jews. 3,500 years ago, there was a great prophet by the name of Moses who arose in Egypt and led his people to the Promised Land. He taught love, he taught kindness, he taught justice and the oneness of humanity. And he revealed those statutes which would help his people arise and create a great Jewish golden age called the Kingdom of Israel. And those who walk in his ways are people of peace and justice, and they call themselves Jews. 2,500 years 2,500 years ago, a prophet arose in India by the name of Buddha. the enlightened one, Gautama the Buddha. And Buddha taught, as Moses had before him, justice and peace and love and kindness and unity. And those who followed him arose to create a great Buddhist golden age, centering on the Maurya Empire, which at its peak hit 2 million square miles and lasted for centuries. 500 years later came the great Jesus, the Christ, the Anointed One. He arose at a dark time, as had all the other prophets, and he led his people to the light. And what did he teach? Love and kindness and mercy and unity. None of the prophets ever taught hate and injustice. And Jesus led his people to the light. And that light produced a great Christian golden age, centering on the Byzantine Empire. 3 years of ministry had Jesus, and he inspired an empire, a great and beautiful Christian empire that lasted for over 1,000 years. Next came Muhammad, coming to dark times in Arabia, to a place that was so dark at the time they were burying their daughters alive. And what did Muhammad do? He taught love and kindness and peace and justice and unity, as had all the prophets before him. And he raised those people up to the highest heights in what was to become known as the Golden Age of Islam. For 500 years, they shed their light on humanity. They invented algebra, algorithms, alchemy, the very first university. I could go on, but the list would be endless. They reinvented every field of human endeavor. And one other thing that's not very well known about the Muslims is they helped reignite Christianity. The Muslim Moors took over parts of Spain for over 600 years. At one time, over half the Jews, and I come from a Jewish background, and my family lived under the Muslims in Spain. They brought that Muslim know-how into Europe, which was then suffering in the Dark Ages, and they helped Christianity reignite in what became known as the Renaissance. And so Christianity then spread after the Renaissance all over the world. They conquered most of North America, most of South America, Asia, Africa, and Australia. Meanwhile, the Golden Age of Islam faded, as had the previous Golden Ages. And in the mid-1800s, there was a great expectation worldwide among Jews, Christians, and Muslims that something would happen, that a prophet would come. The Jews, I will start with, were expecting the Messiah. They expected that Messiah to come in the year 1840, based on their book, the Zohar. They thought he would lead them back to the Holy Land, and there would be a technological revolution. Well, to save some time, the Jews did not see the Messiah in 1840. However, have we not had a great technological revolution? 75% of the inventions in the history of the world have happened since the year 1844. And politics aside, I don't wish to offend anybody on either side, the Jews have returned to the Holy Land, from less than 10,000 Jews to 7 million today. And that's happened since the Ottoman Edict of Toleration, which happened in that very same year, 1844. And so the Jews get 2 out of 3, but no Messiah. And we come to the Christians. In the 1840s, throughout the world, Christians were awaiting the return of Christ and the end of the world. Hundreds of thousands of Christians, due to Bible signs, they thought the world, the end was near. And in places like America and Sweden and Germany and France, Holland, Switzerland and England and many other countries all over the world, hundreds of thousands of Christians gathered together expecting the return of Jesus, the Christ, and the end of the world. Who were these Christians? Well, Martin Luther predicted it would happen by 1840, and John Wesley, the founder of the Methodist Church, he predicted 1836. Joseph Smith and the Latter-day Saints predicted all throughout the 1830s and the 1840s. But the biggest one of all was a man named William Miller. William Miller here in America. He had 100,000 people that he convinced that Christ would return in the year 1844. They were all waiting on October 22nd, 1844 for Christ to return and the end of the world. And when the world failed to end, it was called the Great Disappointment. Miller could never figure out why he was wrong. He was looking at Daniel 8:14, the 2300-day prophecy. In 2300 days, the temple shall be cleansed. He took the time The year the temple was built, 457 BC, added 2,300 years, convinced 100,000 people he was right. And how could he have been wrong? Interestingly enough, that was not the problem. The problem was the Christian Bible at the time. They asked Jesus, when's it going to happen, Jesus? He says at the end of the world in the book of Matthew. Book of Matthew. Several times it says that in the King James Bible. In the newer Bibles, that's all been updated to, when's it going to happen, Jesus? The end of the age. So all of the Christian Adventists were waiting for the end of the world, and that was incorrect because the Bible at the time had a small mistake in it. Luckily been corrected at this point. But that was the problem, the waiting for the end of the world. For the Bible actually says that Christ will come to create a great new age of peace and harmony. Revelation 20, 1,000 years of peace. Revelation 21, the New Jerusalem coming down, being lit by the glory of God. Revelation 21:11 and 21:23, the glory of God will light the New Jerusalem. But the Christians did not see Christ return. So we come to the Muslims. Only there's one little thing in the Christian Bible I find very fascinating, and that's the number 1260. It's actually in the Christian Bible 10 separate verses, 7 times in the book of Revelation, 3 times in the book of Daniel. It's very confusing. I have not met many Christians who know what it means. So if you're a Christian, you don't know what it means, don't feel too badly. The reason is it's not a Christian number at all. It's actually a Muslim number. And so it happens that in Persia, in the year 1260, almost all of Persia was waiting for their promised one. So what the Christian Bible says in Revelation 11:2 and 11:3, it says that 2 witnesses will come and reign for 1,260 days or 42 months. Like I said, that is throughout the Christian Bible. It's in actually 10 verses all told. And so it was in Persia that they were waiting in the year 1260. Why the year 1260? Because after Muhammad, his chosen successor was the 4th caliph and the first imam, Ali. Ali was killed. The next 10 imams were killed. The 12th imam disappears in the year 260 and is supposed to return by Muslim prophecy in Persia in the year 1260. Now here's where it gets very interesting. The Muslim year 1260 is none other than the year 1844 in Christian years. The same exact year the Jews start returning to the Holy Land, the same exact year that Miller had predicted Christ would return. And so it is in Persia that same exact year that they're waiting for their promised one. Most people are waiting for a 1,000-year-old man to come out of hiding. That did not happen. My kids think I'm 1,000 years old, but I'm only 922. They're a little bit off. But there was a group called the Sheikhis, and the Sheikhis were the wisest and best educated of the Muslims in Persia at the time. And they believed that a young man would come in the spirit of the 12th Imam, much like John the Baptist had in his day come in the spirit of Elijah. There was actually a little bit of a controversy in the Christian Bible where they ask John the Baptist, are you Elijah? He says no. They ask Jesus, he says yes. Well, how could they both be right? Well, John the Baptist was saying, I am not physically Elijah, and Jesus is saying that he is coming in the spirit of Elijah. And the same exact thing happens in Persia in the year 1844. The year 1260, a young man comes, a merchant, 24 years old, by the name of the Bab, meaning the gate in Arabic. And he says, on May 23rd, 1844, I am the promised one of Islam, Imam Mahdi, the guided one. He doesn't come quietly. By the way, the very next day, not to be outdone, Samuel Morse sends the very first telegraph. Remember that technological revolution? The telegraph he chooses to send, very interestingly, is what hath God wrought about the coming of a messenger? And a messenger had indeed come the previous day. The Bab went on to gain over 100,000 followers, 400 religious scholars, including the greatest religious scholar that the Shah knew, Wahid, who came with a sword to kill the Bab, met with him 3 times, and after the Bab proceeded to reveal the equivalent of 1/3 of the Quran right in front of him, he became a follower, as did 400 other religious scholars. However, the mullahs of Persia could not recognize the Bab, for if they did, they would lose their power. And so instead, they killed the Bab, and they killed over 20,000 of his followers. The last remaining leader was a nobleman by the name of Baha'u'llah. His name translates to the glory of God in English. He was known at an early age, the age of 13, for great wisdom. In his early 20s, he was known as the father of the poor. In his mid-20s, he became a follower of the Bab. And in 1852, when the Bab was killed by firing squad, after the Bab had been killed by firing squad, and all the other leaders had been killed, he became the last remaining leader alive. He was arrested, accused of a crime he didn't commit, and 100-pound chains were put on his shoulders. He was tortured and put in a place called the Black Pit, and it was in the Black Pit that Baha'u'llah saw the vision of a maiden. And the maiden said, "You're the promised one of all faiths. For the Hindus, the 10th avatar. For the Buddhists, the 5th Buddha. For the Jews, the Messiah. And for Christians and Muslims, the return of Christ." The Muslim expectation was that he would reign for 40 years, which he did, from 1852 to 1892. 40 years of harsh exile. But now for the important part, what he said. He revealed the equivalent of 60 Christian Bibles, and what he said was this, that I've come with the most great peace. And we get that most great peace when we understand the oneness of humanity. And so it is in this age that we're gathered here today, people of all faiths. And I have not yet mentioned the Native Americans, who I adore and support so much. Thank you for coming and blessing us. We are all one human family, whether we be Native American, whether we be Muslim, whether it be Jewish or Christian, whatever country we're from, whether we're from India, whether we're from Ethiopia, we are all God's children. This is Baha'u'llah's message. He said, get rid of sexism. Women are equal to men. This was very radical in the 1800s. Get rid of racism, one human race. This was at a time we still had slavery in this country. He said, the earth is but one country, mankind its citizens. Get rid of nationalism. He says, get rid of religious prejudice. All of these great religions are but chapters in one beautiful faith of God. And if we love in the name of Islam, or we love in the name of Judaism, or we love in the name of Christianity, Buddhism or Baha'i, we love. And that is the important part. And so, if we would all but follow our own religions, we could arrive at a place of peace. Because Buddhism teaches us peace, and Islam teaches us peace, and Christianity teaches us peace. Judaism and the Baha'i faith all teach peace. The love of our neighbors, it's at the center of every religion. And I dare anyone to show me any exception to that rule in any religion. Every religion centers around the golden rule. The love of our neighbors with no asterisk. No asterisk for race. No asterisk for nation. No asterisk for religion. We are here to love each other. And when we love each other, says Baha'u'llah, we will have world peace. We talked of war. War is a tragedy, no matter who's being killed, whether that person be a Palestinian, a Jew, a Russian, a Ukrainian, an American, or a German. Whatever nation or religion we profess, every person lost in a war is a tragedy. But the idea of war is a tragedy, and it is time, high time, that we end that idea. And we can only end that idea when we acknowledge our oneness, that we are but one human family. Some of us are taller. I don't know where my height came from. I come from a short Jewish family, so can't answer that one. But some of us are older and younger and darker and lighter, and some of us were born into different families of different religions. But none of those religions ever taught us to hate. That was our choice. And it is time we unlearn that hate and expressed our love for every human being that crosses our path. So on this Thanksgiving, maybe turn to our neighbors who might be a different religion, a different color, a different anything. Those differences make us beautiful flowers in a single garden of humanity. Flowers of yellow and green and purple and red. And you've got all those colors. I love Native American clothing. I recently had the great pleasure of joining my foundation at a Native American gathering, and seeing the beauty of Native American culture is incredible. But look at your cap and the colors there, and look at all of us, so many different colors and shapes and sizes, and the different religions should be never a reason to hate each other. Never. So this Thanksgiving, let's remember that. And when we all remember that, when enough of us remember that, these talks of war will be over. We will live in a paradise talked about by the Bible, by the Quran, by the Hebrew Bible. In all the religious writings, they talk of a future paradise. That time is now. And we are called upon to build it by every religion. That time is now. Love your neighbor. When we learn this, when we put this into practice in our everyday lives, we can put an end to those terrible wars where people are cowering under bombs. How could we do that? How could we do that to a neighbor we love? And I'm going to tell you why we do it. Because we don't read our own scriptures, and we don't understand who our neighbor is. Our neighbor is everyone. And when we understand that, we will have peace. Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for having me.
Dear ones, standing as you're able, please join us for our closing benediction. Gathered from varied faiths,